My ex-fiancé quit her job to chase her dreams and broke up with me via text just a week before our wedding. 3 years later, she shows up wanting me back, but now I'm married to someone she knows. Hi. So I, 30 male, was engaged to my ex-fiancé, Felicia, 34 female when I was 26, so almost 4 years ago. We were supposed to get married 3 years ago, but she dumped me through text a week before the wedding and took off to Germany where she had been offered her dream job. Felicia and I met each other through friends and had been together for 3 years before she proposed to me and we got engaged. Felicia was a zoology major and she'd been working here as a professor when we met, but I always knew that her dream was to do something great with her life and contribute to the world with whatever she studied, which is really noble. So when she was offered the position of a research specialist for a new study in her field, she accepted the position and moved away without even talking to me a week before the wedding. She and her friends were supposed to go to Hawaii for her bachelorette trip, but she never showed up to the airport. It was only several hours later that we found out that she was in Germany and that she was breaking things off with me because she'd received a job offer there, which she absolutely had to accept. She told me that she knew I wouldn't be able to give up my life, my friends and family, and my career here, and she didn't want me to sacrifice anything either. She also didn't want to give up on her dreams and stay back for my sake. So, after months of thinking about this, she decided to go by herself and take the leap alone. She didn't want some long drawn-out goodbye or even a discussion about this, which is why she decided to leave as quickly as she could. She apologized, said that she was sure I'd find someone better than her, and she was sorry that it had to end this way, but her dreams were too important for her to give up on. I really didn't have a problem with her dreams or whatever, but I just wish that she would have at least discussed things with me before making the move and accepting the offer all those years ago. I have always been an architect and my only motive to work was to earn money and be able to buy myself everything that I wanted. So I never had any such noble intentions of bringing about change in the world or doing something good for society. I was pretty selfish in my interests, which is why I guess I didn't understand her priorities, or maybe I was just a normal person who knew how important communication was and understood that you shouldn't lie to your fiancé, and then dump them through text a week before the wedding. But either way, after we broke up, we didn't keep in touch, obviously, and all our friends cut her off as well. She and I had been great while we were together, and the breakup had literally come out of nowhere. So even though I tried to be okay with it, I really wasn't, and I completely broke down in the few weeks following the breakup. Felicia paid off all the vendors for the wedding as an apology, and I didn't have to spend a dime on anything. So I didn't have any reason to talk to her either. And our last conversation ended up being the breakup, which I'd go through almost every day after she left. We had been living together for quite some time before she moved away and a few weeks after she broke up with me. Her cousin Samantha, 32 female, came by to pick up her belongings since she had left a lot of things behind because she didn't want to make me suspicious. I'd met Samantha before at a couple of her family get-togethers, but we weren't close and neither were Samantha and Felicia close. But apparently, nobody else from the family was talking to her and she'd offered Samantha $2,000 to have her stuff sent to her. Samantha was a guitarist in a band that was still struggling to make a name for itself and she needed the money, so she accepted the offer to get the job done. When Samantha came over to the house to gather the last of Felicia's belongings, I stayed out of her way, but I think I must have looked really depressed. So instead of just taking the things and leaving, she decided to stay with me for a while and talk to me. I wasn't feeling very talkative, but she didn't leave until I had told her everything about how I was feeling. Once I started, I just couldn't stop. It was embarrassing, but I ended up crying in front of her and she comforted me throughout. She let me cry all my feelings out and then she told me that I had to be strong. She also said that Felicia was an idiot and she didn't know what she had lost, which made me feel considerably better about myself because Felicia's leaving had completely shattered my self-worth and confidence. That day, she even gave me her number and told me to contact her anytime I felt like I wanted someone to talk to and then hugged me goodbye. It was a really sweet thing for her to do even though she had no reason to. She was just there to gather her cousin's things and it wasn't even like we were close, but she still seemed to care about me and that's what really touched me about her. We stayed in touch and we ended up becoming really good friends in a couple of months. She was actually the one who helped me feel happy again, and I don't think I could have recovered from that heartbreak had Samantha not been with me every step of the way. She would convince me to leave my house, go to work, and even hang out with my friends on the weekends instead of sitting at home and moping or drinking. But she would also understand when I just had to take some time for myself and would come over on those days and just silently be there with me. I didn't even realize when I fell in love with her over time, and she started spending more and more time at my place instead of her own. Someday 2 years ago, she came to my house and then never left. So that's how we ended up moving in together. And even though most people would say that it was weird and rushed, I wouldn't say that because I really do love her. And we're even married now, so I think we're meant to last. We moved in together, and eventually, at the beginning of this year, we decided that it was time that we got married because of several practical and legal benefits. It was a small and intimate ceremony that not a lot of people knew of, and that's exactly how we wanted it. Everybody in her family and all my friends had been told not to divulge any of this information to Felicia. We didn't want her to get to know about any of this because she would definitely find it really weird that I was getting married to her cousin, and I honestly didn't want to deal with the drama. So everybody had been given strict instructions to hide this from her. Even Felicia's parents had been invited to the ceremony since they had been really nice to me even after our breakup, and they had blessed our union. They'd also promised me that they would keep this a secret from Felicia, but I'd been doubtful since they had been in touch with her and had forgiven her within a couple of months of our breakup. I didn't hold that against them. She was their only daughter after all. But, thankfully, everybody stuck to their promises, including her parents, and made sure that Felicia didn't find out about our marriage. It's been a few months and it's been marital and domestic bliss for me and Samantha, and I found out that Felicia was right when she said that I had somebody better in store for me. Everything had been going well, but then last week, Felicia showed up at my doorstep out of the blue, and it really took me by shock because I hadn't been expecting her. We hadn't spoken ever since our breakup, and it had been 3 years since then. After that, she hadn't bothered to talk to me or check up on how I was doing, and I never reached out to her either. She had come back to visit home for the holidays a couple of times, which is what some of our common friends told me, but we hadn't met and neither had she met any of our friends. However, this time, she decided to come talk to me. And instead of contacting me and setting up a meeting with me like a normal person, she showed up at my door with a bouquet. Before I even had the chance to say anything, she apologized for screwing up our relationship and told me that she was now finally ready to work on things and wanted me to take her back. She told me that the study that she had been working on had turned out to be a bust and they had exhausted all their funds. It was unlikely that they'd be issued a grant again anytime soon, so she quit her job there and came back here for good. She said that she regretted ever letting go of me, especially the way she broke up with me through text. She said that I deserved better after being with her for so long, and I was glad that she had come to her senses at least on that front. She ended her romantic speech by saying that now that she was back, we could pick up right where we left off and get married as soon as we could, because she in her 3 years of staying apart from me had realized that I was the man of her dreams, and she had made a huge mistake by breaking up with me. So she wanted to give our relationship a real chance this time and get back together. I waited for her to finish her speech and didn't interrupt even once while she was talking because I wanted to see where she was going with this. But when she was done talking, I didn't say much and just showed her the ring on my finger and informed her that I was already married to Samantha, her cousin, who happened to be a billion times better than her, and that her apology was too little, too late. Her jaw literally dropped to the ground, and I took that opportunity to slam the door shut in her face and told her to leave before I did that. I was furious afterward and tried to calm myself down until Samantha came back home. It was the weekend and she was out with a couple of her work buddies, so she hadn't been home. Her band had broken up a couple of years ago, around the same time when we started getting serious, and she had joined her friend's dad in their event management business. And if the events they were catering to ever needed a band, she and her friends would regroup and play for them as well, so it was perfect for her. But anyway, it had been a hard week for her at work because there were a lot of back-to-back events. So this was a well-deserved break, and I didn't want to bother her. So I didn't text her or call her to tell her about this until she came back home, and only then did I inform her about Felicia's visit. She told me that she had received several calls from her aunt, Felicia's mom, but she didn't know what it was about. And since she was out with her friends, she figured that she could just come back and call her. But now that she knew, she felt uncomfortable about the whole thing. She told me that she hadn't really considered how this was going to look to Felicia when she found out. I told her that it didn't matter what she thought because she was the one who dumped me without a proper explanation or even a goodbye, and her opinion was pretty much irrelevant. After that conversation, we decided to talk to Felicia's parents since they had been trying to reach Samantha several times while she was out. They had tried to call me as well, but I hadn't really checked my phone because I was annoyed. Once we were on a call with them, they informed us that right after Felicia visited me, she went to her parents' place and really flipped out on them because of what she had learned. First, she yelled at them for keeping this a secret from her for so many months, years if you count the time that we were dating and living together. She accused them and her entire family of betraying her and said that they were all sick in the head for supporting our marriage and allowing this to happen. She said that apparently, I was a disgusting person to go after her cousin because I couldn't have her, and she was convinced that I was just doing this for revenge and that I actually had no real feelings for Samantha. She said that I was just using her to make her jealous, but the jig was up now and she wasn't jealous but just disgusted. I couldn't believe that she would say such things about me because not one word of it was true. If I actually wanted to make her jealous, then I would have done that way back and wouldn't have waited for her to come crawling back to me only to tell her that I'm married now. And most importantly, I'm not a psycho who was still hung up on her and got married just to make her feel insecure. I have real feelings for Samantha and that's why I'm with her. I don't owe her an explanation, so I didn't follow up on this. In the next couple of days, both Samantha and I tried to pretend that she hadn't come back at all and tried to move on with our lives. But Felicia showed up again a couple of days ago and this time both of us were at home. The two of us had just returned from work, and when we heard Felicia shouting for us, we made our way out and saw her making a drunk scene in the street in front of our house. She was screaming at the top of her lungs about how we had ruined her life, which didn't even make sense because she didn't even know about us up until a couple of days ago. As soon as we opened the door and she spotted me, we realized that we had made a mistake, because the moment she saw me, she started sobbing violently. She started talking about how she had truly loved me and how she had never stopped thinking about me even when she was living in Germany. The only reason she hadn't reached out to me was because she didn't want to disturb my peace by coming back into my life again. She said that she could make her peace with the fact that I had moved on, but she couldn't come to terms with the fact that I had moved on with her cousin of all people. She said that I was selfish and inconsiderate, and that it was shameless of us to get married knowing about my history with her. At that point, Samantha called the police and had her taken away, but I couldn't stop thinking about the things that she said. It was really upsetting to see her act that way because she was usually quite a put-together gal, and it was clear to me that seeing me with Samantha had really broken her. Samantha and I haven't talked about that incident and are pretending that it never happened, but I don't know for how much longer we can go on acting like these things aren't happening. To be honest, we had never really considered what would happen once Felicia came back, how she would react to this, or what she would have to say about our marriage. And honestly, it shouldn't matter, but for some reason, it does. We were able to ignore my past with her for so long because she wasn't around us, but now that she's back and is making her presence felt, it's becoming more and more difficult for us to ignore that part of my history. Things haven't been awkward between us, thankfully, but we know that there is a lot that is unsaid between me and Samantha, and I desperately want to talk about this and get it out of the way. At the same time, I can't help but feel that Felicia is probably right to be weirded out by me and Samantha getting together. If my ex got married to my cousin, I would probably feel the same way. And on top of that, there is also the fact that her entire family was a part of this. They knew about it and never told her, which might have led to a complete breakdown. But that's not really my fault, and yet for some reason, I keep feeling like it is. So ata for marrying my ex-fiancé's cousin after she broke up with me over text just a week before our wedding? Update 1. Hi. So first of all, thank you to everybody who replied to my post and stood with me. It means a lot to me and Samantha that so many people are on our side. I will always be grateful for everyone who had such kind things to say about us because we really needed it to get our act together, especially with whatever has been happening with Felicia and stuff. It's been a week since she had to be taken away by the cops when she turned up drunk at our doorstep and created a scene, and by now, pretty much the entire family knows about it. They made it a point to reach out to us and tell us that we were not in the wrong, and we shouldn't fall for whatever Felicia had been saying about us. There is nothing shameless or gross about us falling in love and getting married. In fact, it is anything but disgusting. It's beautiful, and we need to own it instead of letting some low-life loser get to us with her negativity. Everybody has cut ties with her, including her parents, and I couldn't be happier about it. Literally not even one person from her family is supporting her, and that tells me and Samantha everything that we need to know. It's perfectly alright for us to get together because it's not like I was cheating on her, and she's the one who broke up with me in the worst way possible. And Samantha healed me, so I have nothing to be ashamed of. I also told my friends about it, and they were on my side too. They said that Felicia was just crazy and jealous, and that made me feel a lot better. But even then, Samantha and I have decided to get counseling because Felicia's return has not been easy for us to deal with as a couple. And we feel like we need to work certain things out. We start in a couple of days. Update 2. Okay, so Felicia only gave us 2 weeks to deal with our feelings before she made her next attack, and this happened to be online. Last time, she'd insulted us to our face by turning up at our house drunk and crazy. This time, she felt the need to reach more people and talk crap about us in front of a wider audience, so she posted a rant about us online. She accused us of being together just because we wanted to get back at her and said that both of us were failures who couldn't stand to see other people succeed, and we had probably bonded over her and got together just out of spite. She even implied that the reason I didn't try to win her back after the breakup was because I had already been involved with Samantha, and she had just given me the perfect out. It was disgusting for her to imply that I'd been cheating on her when she knew very well that that wasn't the case. I'd been crazy in love with her, but she was the one who broke things off with me so she could chase after her dreams or whatever. She didn't even deem me worthy of a conversation, and yet, she expected me to wait around for her, talk about entitlement and delusion. I didn't see the post myself because I haven't followed her on any platform ever since we broke up, but a couple of my friends sent it to me. I told them that I'd sue her for slander if she kept it up and told them to pass on the message, and only then did she take that post down. But then she texted me and told me that I deserved this and called me a very nasty word that starts with W. I really lost it then and told her that if she ever texted me again, then I really would ruin her life and make sure that she never recovered from it. Even then, she had the audacity to reply to it and said that I deserved to end up with Samantha because she was nothing but a loser who was mediocre with a guitar and completely worthless without it. And then she said that she was pretty sure that if I had managed to find somebody, then she probably had someone more handsome than me waiting for her, and she had no regrets about dumping me. She only wished that she could have done it on the day of the wedding and made me cry a little more. I was shocked that she could even think these things, let alone say them. I decided to block her number after that, which I hadn't done even in the past couple of years because I never expected that she would text me and I was definitely not going to text her, so it just slipped my mind. But now she was finally blocked and she had no other way to reach me. If she turns up at my house again, then I will definitely file for a restraining order. Update 3. Hi. So I sent screenshots of my last conversation with Felicia to her entire family and to all my friends. None of them were talking to her anyway, and those screenshots just made sure that they wouldn't talk to her ever again. Everybody was just as shocked as I had been when I saw those texts, and it all made sense when her parents told us that she had taken up drinking in Germany. Apparently, she was telling the truth about not being able to move on from me even when she was staying there, and because of that, along with her unsuccessful research project, she started hitting the bottles and now has a serious addiction. It explains this behavior, but it doesn't excuse anything. Her parents told us that she had been living in a hotel, but they decided to bring her back home because they were afraid that they would lose her otherwise. They apologized to both of us on her behalf for everything and said that they had to take care of her because she was their only child and they couldn't live with themselves if they abandoned her. Honestly, we can understand where they're coming from and we really don't want to hold it against them. Ultimately, they are her parents and she has nobody to count on but them, and I don't think any of us would want something to happen to her no matter what kind of person she is. Her parents are nice people. They have always been kind to me and have stood up against her when she messed up. So if they want to help her out, I respect that. Samantha and I are more in love than ever, and marriage counseling has made us stronger than ever. In fact, we've even started thinking about a baby and finally starting a family together. I'm in the talks for a promotion. And with a better salary, we can move into a bigger house with a better location. So that's how it's going for us, and we hope it only gets better now. Update 3. It's been 6 months since everything happened with Felicia, and our lives have changed dramatically. I got that promotion I mentioned, and Samantha and I moved into a beautiful 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood just outside the city. The extra space allowed us to set up a nursery, as we're now expecting our first child together. Samantha is 4 months pregnant, and we couldn't be more excited. We found out about the pregnancy just 2 months after all the drama with Felicia settled down. At first, we were nervous about the timing. Was it too soon after all that stress? But then we realized there's never a perfect time. When Samantha showed me the positive test, I broke down crying. After everything we'd been through, this felt like the universe telling us we were on the right path. As for Felicia, we've heard she's doing better. Her parents have been giving us occasional updates, though we maintain a respectful distance. Apparently, she's been in a rehabilitation program for her alcohol addiction for the past 4 months. According to her mother, she's making good progress and has even started seeing a therapist to work through her issues with abandonment and impulse control. Her parents have been her rock through all of this, and I have to admire their dedication despite how horribly she behaved. Last month, we received a letter from Felicia. I was hesitant to open it at first, but Samantha convinced me it might be important for our closure. It turned out to be an apology letter, part of her 12-step program, I assume. She apologized for her behavior, acknowledged the hurt she caused, and expressed genuine regret for how she handled both our breakup and her return. She didn't ask for forgiveness or to be part of our lives again, which I appreciated. It seemed like she was finally taking responsibility. Samantha and I discussed how to respond and eventually decided to send a brief note wishing her well in her recovery. We didn't invite further communication, but we wanted to acknowledge her effort to make amends. Sometimes I think about how different my life would have been if Felicia hadn't left for Germany. I probably would have married her, maybe even started a family by now, but it would have been with someone who could abandon me without a second thought when something better came along. Our marriage counseling ended a couple of months ago, with our therapist saying we've developed excellent communication skills. The whole experience with Felicia actually strengthened our relationship in unexpected ways. We learned how to face external pressures together and support each other through difficult situations. Samantha's career has taken an interesting turn as well. Her event management job connected her with several local musicians, and she started managing a few promising bands on the side. She still plays guitar occasionally, but she's found her true calling in helping other musicians navigate the business side of the industry. It's like she's found a way to combine her passion for music with her organizational skills. Her aunt and uncle, Felicia's parents, have been surprisingly supportive of this venture. I think they see it as a way to maintain a relationship with Samantha without overstepping boundaries. They even attended a show for one of the bands she manages last month, though they made sure Felicia wasn't in town at the time. The family dynamics have slowly begun healing. During the holidays, we had a small dinner with Samantha's parents and Felicia's parents. It was slightly awkward at first, but eventually, the conversation flowed naturally. No one mentioned Felicia until the end of the night when her mother quietly thanked us for not cutting them out of our lives. Family is complicated, she said, but it's still family. One unexpected development came last week when I ran into Felicia at a coffee shop downtown. I was picking up Samantha's favorite decaf, her one pregnancy craving, and there she was, sitting alone with a book. My heart raced, and I considered leaving, but she spotted me before I could make a decision. For a moment, we just looked at each other. She looked healthier, her eyes clearer, her posture straighter. She gave me a small nod, and I nodded back. Then, to my surprise, she got up and approached me. "I heard congratulations are in order," she said, gesturing vaguely toward where a baby would be. "News travels fast in families, I suppose." "Thank you," I replied, unsure what else to say. "I mean it," she said, looking directly at me. "I'm happy for you both." She seemed sincere, but I still felt guarded. "How are you doing?" I asked, more out of politeness than anything else. "One day at a time," she answered with a slight smile. "Working on a research project at the local university. Nothing as glamorous as Germany, but it's honest work." We chatted for another minute or two, stilted, careful conversation, before I made an excuse about needing to get back to Samantha. As I turned to leave, Felicia called my name. "I really am sorry," she said quietly. "And I really am happy that you found someone who would never leave you the way I did." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded and left. On the drive home, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. The anger I'd been carrying, even after everything had seemingly resolved, had finally begun to dissipate. When I told Samantha about the encounter, she took my hand and placed it on her growing belly. "That's good," she said. "I don't want our child growing up in a world of resentment." She's right, of course. The future we're building shouldn't be shadowed by the past. Felicia is a part of our story, she always will be, but she's no longer the antagonist. She's just a person who made mistakes, like we all do. Last night, as Samantha and I lay in bed discussing names for the baby, I realized how completely my life has transformed in the past 3 years. From the devastation of being abandoned before my wedding to finding true love with Samantha, to now preparing to become a father, it's been a journey I never could have anticipated. "What about naming the baby after your grandfather?" Samantha suggested, curling against my side. "I'd like that," I replied, wrapping my arm around her shoulders. We drifted off to sleep like that, planning our future, completely at peace with our past. Whatever happens next, with Felicia, with the baby, with our careers, we'll face it together. And that's all that really matters.